Paul, the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Paul, thanks for joining us this morning. Let me pick up where Chairman Schiff Good morning. Where Chairman Schiff just left off right there, that perhaps Congress should consider making it illegal to engage foreign governments, foreign assistance in campaigns. Do you agree?
Well, I think the American people will be shocked and dismayed to know that Joe Biden's son was making $50,000 a month just a couple of months after he was dishonorably discharged from the military for drugs. $50,000 a month. I think most Americans will be dismayed that the president's son was doing this while Joe Biden was actually lobbying to have this company go free of prosecution. My understanding, this is reported in the New York Times, Joe Biden was asking the prosecutor to lay off of the company that Hunter Biden was working for $50,000 a month. The guy just got kicked out of the military. That's extraordinary.
That's not what was reported. In fact, he was on an anti-corruption drive.
That's exactly what was reported, yes, that he got $50,000 a month right after he was kicked out of the military. That's exactly true, and nobody disputes that.
That's very separate from what you just said about what the vice president was saying right there. How about this idea that the president could ask, it's appropriate for him to ask the attorney general to investigate the former vice president?
I think since the very beginning, this all has been politically motivated. Now both sides are doing it. I think it goes back even to the Clintons. This is why we shouldn't have special prosecutors. But one of the things that Adam Schiff and the other partisans don't understand is that if you're accused of a crime by a grand jury and they don't indict you, the prosecutor doesn't go all over town saying, we thought he did this, we thought he did this, this is all the evidence. That's why a grand jury is secret. See, the Mueller investigation said that the president did not commit any underlying crime. And so now they're all saying he obstructed justice about something that was not considered to be a crime. So this is really, I think, degenerated into partisan politics. And the best thing we could do at this point is say, let's get on with the country's business. Are there some underlying constitutional issues? Yes, the primary underlying constitutional issue here is whether or not the FISA court, which is supposed to spy on foreigners, which has a lower constitutional standard, can you use the FISA court to spy on a presidential campaign? Can you use the FISA court to seek information about Americans? That truly is a travesty and truly is unconstitutional, and that's the root of the problem we should be addressing.
Well, as you know, there's no requirement that there being an underlying crime for obstruction of justice to exist. And you've got something like 800 former federal prosecutors who say they believe that the president would be prosecuted if indeed he weren't president right now. So you're not concerned about that at all?
I think most Americans would disagree with that. I think most Americans would disagree with that. Most Americans would hate the idea that you're called in to talk to the FBI, and when you're called in, they say, oh, what did you say on the phone to somebody 2 months ago? And if you describe that inaccurately, then the government's going to say, oh, we're going to put you in jail even though there was no crime committed. No, people are horrified by the idea that you could put someone in jail for obstructing justice on something where you didn't commit the crime. Think about it from the perspective of the president.
Isn't that exactly what happened to Martha Stewart?
Well, yeah, and it was wrong. What they did to Martha Stewart was an abomination. So when you're accused falsely of a crime and you try to defend yourself, should you then be accused of another crime for trying to defend yourself against false accusations? I think it's absurd.
How about this charge from Democrats? You just heard it from Adam Schiff saying that the president's blanket no is basically amounting to another kind of obstruction of justice. Is it appropriate to completely stonewall Congress across the board, not only on matters where they're investigating the president's personal finances, but also on matters of policy like immigration and health care?
I think the clip you played of Adam Schiff showed it accurately. He's a hypocrite. He was against, he was all for President Obama using executive privilege, and now he's against this president. The bottom line is we spent $35 million investigating the president. Their conclusion was there was no underlying crime. This whole kibitzing about, oh, well, maybe he obstructed justice to try to hide an investigation about something he didn't do. This is absurd, and the American people know it. People have gone to their corners on it. But it's important to remember that this was politically motivated from the very beginning, from a political document from the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that should be investigated because we cannot allow the incumbent parties to weaponize the intelligence communities to spy on Americans or on political candidates or potentially their donors. So there is a real danger to this, and it is a constitutional one, but the Democrats have it completely upside down.
The clips go both ways. Back when President Obama was asserting executive power, you attacked him for acting like a king. Let's show that.
Someone who wants to bypass the Constitution, bypass Congress, that's someone who wants to act like a king or a monarch.
The president acts like he's a king.
Not only is it an abuse of power, I think it's almost leads us to a constitutional crisis of sorts. The president can't just do what he wants. He's not a king. He has to really get approval from Congress.
So why isn't that hypocritical?
Right. Well, and for your viewers, you will need to also remind them that I opposed President when he unconstitutionally, Obama, tried to make DACA or immigration law without Congress. I also opposed President Trump when he tried to spend money that wasn't appropriated. So I think I'm entirely consistent in saying no president should be king. That includes my president. So I took a lot of heat from people in my party by saying, well, you can't spend money that wasn't appropriated by Congress. But I did stand up with 12 other Republicans and say the same thing that I said for President Trump under President Obama. And I think that is consistent. With regard to executive privilege, I never said one word about President Obama on whether or not he should have to divulge all the material within the administration. I said that he couldn't create immigration law without Congress first creating the law. I said the same to President Trump. You can't spend money without Congress first appropriating it.
Before we go and ask you about the president's imposing of new tariffs on China on Friday, it looks like that trade war with China is escalating. Last year, you put out a tweet that said tariffs are taxes that punish American consumers and producers. If tariffs punish farmers, the answer is not welfare for farmers. The answer is remove the tariffs. Are you worried with this escalation from President Trump that he's going to end up putting in permanent tariffs that are going to hurt the American economy?
Yes, I know of a big prominent company in Kentucky that told me that the tax cut significantly helped them, but that the tariffs are almost equal in punishing them. The farmers in Kentucky are concerned about the tariffs, and I've talked to the administration about this. I've said my concern is that the great benefits of the tax cut, which have low unemployment and incredible economic growth, could be erased by this tariff war. As we ratchet it up with China, I'm very concerned. However, we're in the middle of this, and the president is playing a negotiating battle with the Chinese, and I think he feels that at this point they can't really back out. I think there are ways the Chinese market could open up, and that would be good, but I still have advised the administration, get this done, because the longer we're involved in a tariff battle or a trade war, the better chance there is that we could actually enter into a recession because of it.
Senator Paul, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.